Hi. So it's been a minute since I've been able to sit down and actually make a YouTube video, which is why it's been such a long time. So we have had our third baby. Little man has been born. He was born on September 24th. Very quickly. So this video is going to be about both what that birth was, because it was very quick and short, and then the bad twist that happened once we got to come home with him. Because I have not been able to make a video because for his first month of life, we were up in a children's hospital and he ended up needing surgery to save his life. So it was a lot. So let's start with his birth. Like I said, he was born September 24th. I don't remember the time offhand. He was healthy by appearance. He checked all the boxes that he needed to, all the things that everything happened went as well as they could be. So leading up to it, 2 days before we actually had him, so before he was actually born, I had gone to the hospital twice because I knew I was having contractions and they were very bad. Each time I went, I was not dilated far enough, and I also was not continuing to dilate enough for them to hold me, and because I was 27 and a half. It was almost 28 weeks, I believe. No. 28. Yeah, 28. He was born 2 weeks early. Because he was in a certain threshold, they weren't allowed to do anything where they could actually, help me progress. They're not allowed to do anything until you are at least 39 weeks. So, and they just sent me home, told me to drink water, take Tylenol, that kind of thing. Which, if you look it up, little fact, Tylenol doesn't do anything for contractions, actually. It doesn't. If it does work, it's gonna be a placebo effect, and you got lucky. But it does nothing. So we're at home. It is the 23rd. I am in pain all night. I do not sleep. I am in horrific pain from my contractions, but I don't want to go and get told nothing we can do. You're not far enough along. Go home. So it's about, I believe, 6 in the morning. I go to the bathroom. I come back over where I'm sitting right now, and I'm sitting here. My husband is trying to comfort me, and I just go, I can't do this. It hurts too much. Okay, pause for a second. If I act a little nauseous or I'm sniffly and also my voice is different, we're all sick. All of us except our toddler. So apologies. But anyway, back to what I was saying. I was sitting here, I was like, I can't do this anymore, which should have been my first sign that we were in the third phase of labor already. Because if you don't know, there are certain signs that tell you that you're going to have this baby soon that some nurses use to know how far along someone is. And one of them is just getting to the point where you're just I can't do this. No, is one good sign. Another sign is that you vomit, apparently, and also, the head coming out. But, so I'm sitting here, and I'm like, I can't do this. I'm crying. And then he goes to lay back down because I told him, hey, just go get rest. I'll be fine. He lays down in my water. I go to stand up. My water breaks. And I tell him. He calls my grandparents who were staying at a hotel because they were up here visiting in case this happened. And also so we could have someone watching the girls while I went to get my extra ultrasounds. So he calls them, they head over, and on their way over, so while we're waiting for them to get here, I vomit, which made my brain click that little man might be here a little bit sooner than we thought. But all I could think was, I need to stay calm. Let's not even think about that, or I'm going to possibly panic, and it's going to make things worse. So I kind of ignored that, but in the back of my head, I'm like, we should hurry, because our hospital is 30 minutes away from our house, and sometimes traffic, especially this was like starting to get to morning work traffic, can get a bit hectic. So we drive. Road's actually pretty clear, so that was nice after my grandparents get there. It's not officially open, so we have to go through the ER. Obviously, we did call ahead, we do every time, and they tell you where to enter, and they told us to go in the ER because they're not open yet. Through the front, we go in. They get me a wheelchair, and the ER ladies at the desk, love them. They're not rushing me at all. They're being very nice. They're just like, sign this when they can. They get all the paperwork done. And they also, the other one, while I'm signing stuff and while they're getting me checked in, one is getting me checked in, the other one calls up and lets L&D know that I'm here and to send someone down to push the wheelchair, because they weren't, how I was acting, they weren't letting me walk up, and I kind of thank them for that, and you'll find out in a few minutes why I thank them for that. So they tell me congratulations, all that stuff, and I am wheeled up. On our way up, the nurse that was pushing me up did ask, do you feel like you're about to have a baby? Because they know that this is our third kid. And in the wheelchair, I'm like, no, I have no feeling to like push or anything. Like I'm good. And so we go to the room. We're walking. I'm talking in between. Which, okay, for our neurodivergents in the room, we have learned something. When they say that you cannot talk through contractions, I always thought like you were not able to talk at all. Like you could not talk at all. No, you could still talk a little bit, but basically your contractions, the pain during them, have stalled you so you cannot hold a conversation. That's what it means. You cannot hold a conversation. So don't think you can't speak, just you cannot hold a conversation. Thing I learned. But anyway, so we go up to the room. It's the normal, get in the gown, da-da-da. I stand up off of the wheelchair. I feel like I'm about to have a contraction. And I bend over to grab onto the bed. And my body starts pushing. And I just go, he's coming. And so I tell my husband, I'm not yelling. I'm just like talking sternly is all I can say, to take it off. That's all I get. He takes off my shoes. Now it's kind of funny because he was kind of panicking a bit. And so I had to emphasize, take off my pants, because he was coming. Because my body was pushing with or without me at that point. The other nurse hits the call button to get other nurses in there to help. And by the time the other nurses get in and they're starting to glove up, one of them looks over and goes, there's a head. Because I had managed to climb up on the bed and get so the bed was propped up a little, kind of like that. And my hands were up here, and then I was on my knees. And I had pushed again, and there was a head. And he ended up being a nurse-delivered baby. Everything went very smoothly. It ended up being unmedicated. Well, technically, the labor did. They give Pitocin, no matter what, to help with the uterus afterwards. It was just nicer not to have an IV, because instead they just did a shot afterwards. And I preferred that over IV stuck in my hand. So if we have another kid, I'm going to ask if we can do the Pitocin through the needle in my leg over an IV drip because I prefer that. But yeah, he was born. Everything went smooth. Husband cut the cord. He latched really well. For the first one, we got an hour of golden time. Normally, they would take them right away. They'd have the stuff off to the side. They weigh them, and then they give them back real quickly. Doink, doink. But this round, they're just like, we'll hold off. We'll let you have the time. By the time the doctor actually had gotten there, we were already, like, getting everything cleaned up. The nurses were filling out the paperwork. I was just cuddling with him. So all she had to take care of was basically the placenta. I didn't need any stitches. So, not much to do. We do have a little joke. This was not my OB who came in. We have a little bit of a joke that my OB has never delivered any of our kids. And sadly, this was also the last pregnancy, if I get pregnant again, that she would even be watching over because due to some, we'll say, office situations, she is no longer main practicing in the clinic that I would go to that accepts our insurance. Luckily, while I had her when she was on leave, I did have an appointment with one of the midwives that worked in her team, and I really do like her. So if I do get pregnant again, it's not like I have to look for a whole new OB/midwife. I have one that I really like. So we're there just for the 24 hours, well, a little over 24 hours, because our hospital does not allow you to go out when it is night shift. Only day shift does discharge. So everything seemed fine. He threw up when we were at the hospital, and we thought that it was just the amniotic fluid still coming out, so no one was too concerned about it. We take him home. Everything's fine. We go to his first pediatrician appointment. And this is when it starts getting, after we leave, everything at the hospital was fine. Like, it was going perfectly fine. And then when we leave is when it starts going sour. Every feed he starts throwing up. Which originally, it's like, okay, that's fine. Babies don't have very, developed systems that keeps all the acid down, which is why they spit up. But it is not normal when they start spitting up green or yellow. That's bile. That is not a good sign. But everyone just thought, because it was very fast labor, it did not take 5 minutes. Like when I started pushing, it took no time. I wouldn't even say it took 2 minutes. It was like that. So people were just assuming that it was that. We took him to his pediatrician appointment. We voiced our concern. And they weren't concerned about it because he was still pooping. He had pooped. The only thing that was off was the vomit, which by itself could have truly just been the amniotic fluid from coming so fast. But he had lost more than 10% of his body weight. So we scheduled a short follow-up with a nurse for a weigh-in check. The same day, that night, after his pediatrician appointment, we rushed him to the ER because we noticed, well, okay, so we didn't notice anything, but I noticed my brain was just clicking, something isn't right. What my brain had noticed is his breathing from his chest was tightening. I forgot the medical term for it, but it was when the breathing is tightening around his ribs, which is not normal. And he was actually physically turning gray because he was in, what we found out, he was in respiratory failure. So we take him to the ER and we were just listening. We had the music off. We were listening for him breathing. Our two oldest had to come with us because we didn't have anyone to watch him at that time. And we are listening for him to breathe. We have the music off. We're just listening because he's a little bit noisy trying to breathe, so we're able to tell. We get to the ER. We explain the situation. They get everything checked in because obviously they have to, and they get them back as fast as they can. Very quickly, we are told that this is out of their scope and they are sending us up to one of the children's hospitals in Wisconsin. I am not going to say which one because it exposed too much of our area, but it is in Wisconsin. That is all I'm saying about location-wise. So, it's an hour total from where we're at to get there. So we have to wait an hour for an ambulance to get there, and I'm basically in charge of him the whole time. The AR was supposed to get pull blood from him and urine and some other stuff. The only thing they were able to get is urine, and then they got a nasal cannula in his nose for oxygen. He started aspirating, and I had to yell at someone to get me like a suction bowl to get everything out, which ticked me off quite a bit. And then they were not able to get an IV in to get blood, which on their part, even up at Children's, they were not able to keep a normal IV in him. But we'll talk about that and what they did to fix that when we get to that point. So eventually, the ambulance for them come, and he gets sick again, and so they start pumping his stomach, which is terrifying. At that point, when the pumping the stomach, my husband had taken the kids already because only one of us were allowed to ride, and the yard people did not know if no kids under the age of 18 was in effect yet, due to it being very close to RSV season. We learned later it wasn't in that they could come visit. But they're able to get No, I don't think they're able to... No, they are able to get an IV in him. They put him on a full mask. Well, not a full mask, just like a mask at certain times, like during changes, because it was helping his breathing and staying better than the small little nasal cannulas were. And they put him in one of the incubators that you normally see in a full NICU. They put him in one of those, and that's how they transport those little babies. And I sit in the front, and we drive to the children's hospital, and we are immediately put in the PICU unit. When we get there, obviously they draw blood, lots of tests off the bat. He gets a spinal tap. They do cultures. They had already given him antibiotics before they took the cultures, which was following protocol, but it also messed up a test of making sure. Normally you do cultures first and then the antibiotics, and so it's harder to see if anything like bacteria-wise it grows on the cultures if they get the antibiotics first. But it was also a needed step. That way, if it was anything that the antibiotics could take care of, it would already be in effect, and it was a safe than sorry kind of situation. Like I said, he got a spinal tap as well, and he had already started looking better, though, by the time we got here. It seemed like by the time they worked on getting the fluid out of his stomach and everything, he started perking up a bit. I'm not going to name any of our staff, but we were probably in the PICU for 24 hours, and he was officially out of critical condition. He was out of respiratory failure, which was awesome. He started being able to breathe. He had to get down to a 2, I believe, before he could be moved up to a different level of the NICU, which was for less critical care, which he managed to do very quickly. He started eating a little bit better while we were in the PICU, and he wasn't throwing up. So after that, we went upstairs. In the PICU, I was very, very kind of scared to take care of him because of like all the wires and everything. Oh, I'm about to cry. It was scary. So we go up to 12, which is less critical condition. I meet his team, and this is the first time we meet basically what I refer to as main nurse, aka the nurse we saw the most. So if I say it's like the main nurse, it's the nurse we saw the most while we were in that floor. I know that's not technically what the main nurse is, but that specific nurse, I loved her, and she felt so much like family while we were up there. And having her there, being like, all the nurses and staff were wonderful. So it takes roughly, it's a full month. It takes half a month to figure out what's wrong with him. In that time, they're running blood tests almost every day to check his levels. He is getting ultrasounds, x-rays, he got a GI scan, you name it, he's getting it done. He stopped vomiting for a few days, and they were like, oh, maybe like it was something with the antibiotics. Center for Disease that they had wanted him to finish his antibiotics before there was any possibility of him going home at all. And it seemed like at first they were thinking, oh, the antibiotics probably worked because he just stopped throwing up. And then it was on Friday, he just started throwing up again a lot. So that killed him. And it continued with just keep trying to get ultrasounds, everything. They could not figure out what was going on. So basically what ended up happening is after one of his scans, actually, hold on, back up a bit. During the time they were there, they had a problem I mentioned with keeping an IV in. And one of his IVs had rolled, and that meant fluid was going into his actual arm and not the vein like it should be. And it was only for a short period of time, so they weren't too concerned. They pulled it out. His arm was a little bloated. They did pull, I think it was ultrasound up here, out to the room, check, he was fine. They ordered another IV. It rolled. This is the only time I had an issue with one person in this whole hospital, is the tech had put the IV in the arm that was already bloated from the former IV rolling, which made it worse because it rolled quickly, and because it was already bloated, no one really noticed it at first until the next morning. And then we took it out. He got another ultrasound. He was fine. Just needed to let the fluid go down. But after that, it was decided that he would get a PICC line in his leg, which is considered a minorly invasive surgery where they put essentially a catheter IV, we'll call it, in his leg, and it goes up and it helps. And we learned later that for some of his stuff he would have needed one anyway, so it was actually a happy coincidence that he got one earlier. So he gets that done, and then he throws up, and the head of his team just rush orders an ultrasound. Because she explained later, she's like, if we're gonna catch it, whatever's going on, she thought we need to like get it checked out ASAP, because obviously waiting has caused us not to figure it out. So let's just get it done right now. So we rush them down, they scan it, and basically their diagnosis was malrotation with volvulus. Malrotation is when the organs do not fully flip when they are born. So everything's in not the right spot, which that by itself is fine. It's just recommended you get your appendix taken out due to the fact that it can make stuff like appendicitis very hard to diagnose in the future. And then volvulus, though, is when basically an intestine twists and it needs surgery to be corrected. The only problem is with volvulus is it can come back. So they took him down. They explained the procedure because it was surgery. He was going to get scoped down the mouth and then through 2 little marks in his stomach before they actually went in to correct it to make sure this was actually what was going on. And it wasn't. At least not the volvulus. The volvulus was not the problem. So they halted surgery and said, we want GI to fully scope him, so the camera down the throat, or I think it's the throat, and figure out, because it definitely is something internally, but it is not volvulus. So we are moved down to, I believe, 10, which is basically the surgery aftercare area. This is the part where I could not stay constantly, because after he had gone up to children's, my husband's mom was able to stay for a while and watch the girls. They live in a different state. And she was able to watch the girls while my husband was at work, because he still had to work. And I was up with little man the whole time while he was in the PICU and 12. So this is when I had to start coming home. But not only just because we needed to be able to watch the girls, but also my mental health at this point had just taken a really bad turn. Like, I was wondering if this would actually get fixed. It hurt. But anyway, GI does not work on Saturdays and Sundays, and his surgery was on Friday. So he is scheduled for Monday. He is on a no feed by mouth. So he is on IV fluids again, and he can have like little sweeties. That's what they call them. They're like little, basically, I think it's like sugar water, basically. He's allowed to have like a little drop of that on a pacifier. Going in, we tried to hold the like no pacifier thing, but once we got to surgery where we weren't there, that kind of fell apart, which I was fine with. Because he needed something to soothe him, and he was a lot more upset when I wasn't there. So GI did his scope, and malrotation was confirmed. So definitely malrotation. That is there. That is for sure. And then we also found that within his small intestine, so like the first curve. So there's the first curve. So we'll do this. All you need to know is that much. So this was fine, this first one. And then this second one right here was narrowed in his small intestine, and it wasn't letting anything go through. And that was our problem. And it was fixable. What they did is the 2 curves right here, they would make a hole down. This is how they explained it to me in the simplest way. They made a hole to bypass it and connect those 2 together. So basically, instead of everything going that way, it went boom. That's how it was done. The only thing we really had to look for was another blockage, which could happen when the scar tissue from the bypass kind of covers it up. And it would be the exact same symptoms that we had previously saw, and because of the fact that we already knew what was probably causing it, it would be much faster to fix. He had to go no food, obviously, for even longer due to the fact that he couldn't eat before surgery. During that whole window, he also had an O tube. I believe that's the one down the throat, sucking stuff out of his stomach to help get the bile out. which he kept taking out, as every baby does. But he got that in. And the last day that they were taking it out, there was still stuff coming out. But we're like, hey, you're getting out today. So we joked that he got to take out his own O-tube because they decided they were going to leave it until the next morning instead and not take it out that day just because there was a good amount still coming out and safe than sorry kind of thing. Well, at the beginning of the night shift changeover, he pulled his tube out again and they decided to just go ahead and leave it out. So after the surgery, he had 2 more weeks that he spent there. So he was at that hospital for a total of a month, which was 2 days after his 1 month birthday, basically. And that was recovery. I think it was 4 weeks. It was a month, okay? Half of that was spent figuring out the problem, the other half was recovery. And recovery was about getting him eating again, which took a while. We realized tricks to get him to stay awake because he was still very sleepy, which is understandable. He came off Tylenol very quick because he was given Tylenol for pain, but they quickly weaned him off of that because he wasn't showing any signs of pains. We realized very quickly that he was not eating well for the nurses versus when I was there and I was feeding him, which honestly, it was bad for his progress, but also because it was a constant thing, like I would leave and then he would stop eating as good. The hospital quickly did catch that. Also, every time he would have surgery, we would come in and he would have a little bravest award. He had 2 of them with the date of his surgery, and every time it made me cry. And then also, the nurses absolutely loved him. We would come in and there would be there would be writing on his window with a dry erase board being like, cutest baby, he's so brave, stuff like that. We were told there was almost always someone in his room cuddling him. The nurses loved him. Like, they were actually very sad to see him leave because they also had grown quite attached to him. But eventually his last week, it was a thing of he had gained weight, except for like the last day he had dropped a little bit, but they had accidentally Saturday morning they had taken his weight way later than they should have, and his weight was only down very little the next morning at the normal time. So they decided to let him go anyway. Due to him not finishing, by the way, I forgot this, him not finishing bottles, that Friday before he came home, he did get a feeding tube put in his nose, just in case. We personally never had to use it. The nurses did. When it first got put in, they had to use it twice. We never ended up having to use it. We were told that if he went a full week without using the tube, we could call to go ahead and rearrange to get it taken out early. He was along with that, he was also put on fortified feed. I believe it was 70 cal, if I remember correctly. No, it wasn't 70. I think it was only in the 20s. Anyway, he was on fortified feed. Okay. I'm happy we're off this, so I'm glad that this is something I don't have to remember. But when we came home, he was on fortified feed, gentle release for Selmiac because we were getting it through WIC. He gained weight so fast. And we had a quick check with his pediatrician afterwards to make sure everything was translated over to them well and all that kind of stuff. He had gained a good amount of weight at that point. He was going well, and we scheduled it. We had already scheduled to see. It had already been a week because they wanted him a weekend before the week, 1 week out of discharge. So we got it scheduled in. So 2 more weeks with the pick line in. It was like a countdown. We were so excited the day before. We were like, "You're probably getting your line out tomorrow." Like, we were like hoping. That day was also our toddler's first day of preschool, so she did not have to come with us. She was at preschool and she had a wonderful time. We go for the pick line, that appointment, because if he didn't get it out in 1 month, you have to go anyway. Every month you have to get the little thing holding not the pick line, the feeding tube. Every month you have to go get the little thing holding the feeding tube changed out to prevent infections. And also, by the way, the whole time that he has that in, to maintain it, you are putting lotion around the nose to make sure it does not damage the nose any, and you're also flushing it with a little bit of water. Only a little bit, since babies aren't supposed to have water. We take him in. He's still gaining weight very well. I don't remember his weight for that pediatrician appointment. This one, all we know is he's gaining weight very well, and they are perfectly fine taking the line out. He is not needing it at all. They are very happy with his progress. He's doing very well. And we're told to make an appointment with our pediatrician to get him weighed in a week. So we get that set up. He gains over a pound in that week, which is considered rapid weight growth. So we send that to children's, their dietitian team, which, by the way, he is followed by GI, dietitian. He was followed by disease, like I mentioned, neurology. He was probably followed by almost every department for like a while. Most of them had dropped out by the time we had figured it out, and we were left with just GI, diet, and then we had speech and surgery. Surgery stopped. He stopped 100% having a surgery team before he was clear to go because he was fine. Nothing surgery related needed to be addressed. He healed fine. It was mainly just GI, speech, and diet, trying to get him to eat and everything. With him getting the tube out, we did not have to go back in the 1 month, which means we did not have to re-see speech or GI after that. And after that weigh-in with his pediatrician, we also did not have to see dietitian anymore because that was considered rapid weight gain. He was over the amount he should have been. We were also told we were allowed to cut fortified feeds at that point. So he was already doing very, very well for recovery, because they did warn us it could be a rocky road. It could go out either way. So roughly a month after his surgery, we go back up to children's because he needs to be visited by surgery, make sure he's still gaining weight with their records, and also to make sure everything is healing, see if we have any questions, all that kind of stuff. We walk in. It is the head surgeon from his team. I had met her when we were there. She was very happy to see him again in a healthy manner with the tube out. She did not know his tube was out until he was here and saw his records. She was very happy to see that. She was very happy with his weight gain, everything. His scar looked wonderful. That's when she told us that there is a chance, even later in life when he's an adult, that the scarring could cause a blockage again, which could cause all the symptoms, and that is the only main thing that we really need to look out for. And she even said that is very rare to happen, but also all the things he had wrong was also very rare to happen. So it wasn't off the table that couldn't happen. So we go to that appointment. He has outdone what they thought he would be at that point. So they're just like, he looks wonderful. he's good to go. We don't need to see him anymore. All his care can now officially be put back to his pediatrician, which, thank God for our gas, because it was a lot of gas. No, we're lucky that with our estate, if a parent, specifically the mother, is on Medicaid, state insurance, I think it's Medicaid, I don't know, I can't mix up, apologies, instantly the children are put on it as well. And it covered all of his medical costs. So anyone that talks shit about medical insurance currently, you're kind of shitting on the program that saved my son's life. So we're gonna have a little bit of beef. But thanks for that, we do not have any medical debt that we have to deal with. He is healthy. He's thriving. As of this video, he's about to be 3 months on Christmas Day. He is gaining weight rapidly still. He actually has outgrown 3-month clothing. He is now to 3 to 6 month clothing, which makes me very happy. I still get very, very worried about him. I am much more anxious with him than I was with our other two, and that is mainly because of the fact of what happened. There will always be that anxiety of like, oh my God, is something happening? Do we need to take him to the ER? Because of what happened. And I was told, even by my OB team, because he was up by my 6-week appointment, and obviously they do the screening, and I explained that before they did the screening that had happened, so they understood, because obviously that affected some of my answers, and that had to be noted in my charts. And they said that kind of reaction is perfectly understandable for what happened. We talked also with my OB team, who also went over my files real quick during this, and all of my stuff were normal, and they're wondering why his stuff wasn't picked up, because this is something that can be picked up on a detailed ultrasound, and I was getting detailed ultrasounds during my pregnancy in the 3rd trimester, so it should have picked it up. But also, from other research that I've done personally, it also seems like it can be hard to detect the narrowing, especially considering he had malrotation and everything wasn't correct. The theory that why this stuff happened is because, if you didn't know from my some of my other videos, Mr. Man was originally a twin. It was identical twins, and we lost baby A. This was due to me having I forgot what it's called, but it's the pocket of blood on the outside of the sac. It was too close to baby A. It was not baby A. He was not getting, we know it's identical twins by the placenta where it was attached and all that kind of stuff. It was too close. It blocked off his growth and all that, and before, it looks like about 8 weeks, we lost A. But Mr. Man was B and was connected to the side of the placenta, which blocked off the amount of blood and nutrients he was able to get, which lack of blood can cause these problems. So our theory is that's what caused it. Due to him being hooked to the side of the placenta, he wasn't getting enough blood flow, and that's what caused his situation. His pediatrician, when she first learned he was in children, private number has called me and my husband, because at that time we had not released, Children's had not gotten permission from us because they hadn't asked yet, to allow his main pediatrician to receive the information. So my husband gave her the rundown of what we had known, but he didn't know everything. So she called me, and at the first time she called, we were on the idea of Tuesday, going home that Tuesday, because he had stopped, but obviously that didn't happen. And I gave her the whole rundown, and then she had called again. Again, she's calling after hours on a private number to check in. And I explain what happened and what I give her the update. And then finally it's sent over. During that, we do have an appointment for my second child, and so I just give the rundown there, and I also have to explain to the receptionist so she can put a note that little man cannot come in for his 1 month appointment because he's up at Children's Hospital, just so she can put a note. Because it seems like they weren't telling front desk stuff to put in the system. Which, okay, it's a hiccup. To be fair, also, Children's was faxing everything over to the main pediatrician. So, it probably took a minute for them to even figure stuff out. Because by the time I had gotten to the 1 month, not 1 month, the 1 year appointment for my second eldest, I was able to get them updated on everything to a quicker point, because as far as they knew at that point, he had just had they had just planned the surgery, but he had already gone in for surgery. But anyway, yeah, that's everything. He's now very healthy, very chunky, fast asleep. He's actually at the point where he's sleeping much longer because he's eating like his average during the day is 4.5. His average during the night is 5 ounces of. It is 3 ounces my milk and then 2 ounces of formula is how we do it because I do not supply enough. But he is doing very good. He is developing wonderfully. We honestly at this point don't think he has any issues that will happen. But yeah, that's the story. It's a lot. It was traumatizing, and I honestly hope no one else has to go through it. But I also hope that if this reaches anyone that it can help. I know there is a lot of fear around doctors, especially with the kids recently, and sometimes you gotta trust them. Because with this situation, there was nothing I could do. I had to fully just let them do what they wanted to do, what they needed to do, and that saved his life. He would have died without this medical care. And I will forever be grateful for his team up at this children's hospital, all of them. From the ambulance, the people in the ambulance, his PICU team, and the NICU team from 12, surgery team, GI, dietitian, speech. We even saw lactation. His main nurses on 12 that were taking care of him. The volunteers that came and held him when we weren't there. Everyone. We left them thank you cards, and because everyone loved him so much, I also have a Polaroid camera situation. So I took, the night before we were leaving, I took photos of him so I could put them in the thank you cards. And I wrote his name on them. Yeah. So that's that story. It was a wonderful, untraumatic birth that quickly spiraled into a very traumatic first month. Thank you for watching. Feel free to subscribe. Hopefully I'll be able to post a bit more now that we are now settled. And hopefully I won't be sick, so my voice will be back to normal soon. Bye.